What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. The first ever V-union cards are coming out in North America on September 24th, and so they will also be available to play on Pokemon TCG Online if you can get your hands on some of the code cards for them. So today we'll be looking at some early draft lists for a deck including each of the V-unions. We'll have one deck for Mewtwo V-union, one deck for Greninja V-union, and one deck for Zacian V-union. These are, like I said, pretty early drafts just to get you guys some ideas and get you going building some decks around these V-union cards. Now, in general, I don't think these V-unions are going to be very impactful right away in the game, at least in the competitive game. I do think you can probably get them functioning, but I think it takes up so much deck space with 4 card slots, and also building your deck to be able to discard them, and then trying to get them into the discard and then get them out to get them powered up. It's a lot to do, especially when a lot of games in this standard format will last about 5-6 turns, and you know, how many turns is it going to take to get that V-union into the discard and set up and everything. But wanted to get you guys started out with some lists here to get the ideas going. So we'll take a look at the V-union before we go into their list. First, shout out to PotownStore.com, the best place to get PTCGO codes, and be sure to use code CELIO for 5% off. You can also check out PokemonCard.io, where I list all of my standard format deck lists, and you can find that link in the description down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, and now let's get into it. So we're going to start off with Zacian V-union, and I'm using Pokegear.app to make these lists, since we can drag in cards that are not out yet into the deck lists, and we'll just be using the V list, the V unions, all 4 combined kind of picture as the image for them in the deck list, but just know it represents one copy of each piece of the V union. So for Zacian V union, which we'll start out with, Zacian V union has 320 HP and is a metal type. V union cards are worth 3 prizes when knocked out, and they can only be played if all of the pieces are in the discard pile. You can then move it from the discard pile to the bench, and it has to be all 4 pieces at the same time. Zacian V-union has no abilities, but it does have 4 attacks. For a Union Gain, which costs a colorless, Union Gain is going to be on all of the V-unions, and it is attached up to 2 metal energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. So that can actually be pretty nice if, like, you have a checkmate scenario on the board where next turn you just need to use Steel Slash or Master Blade. You can attach to Zacian V-union, use Union Gain, accelerate 2 energy. They don't knock you out, then next turn you just use Master Blade or Steel Slash. Then the second attack is Royal Blade Dance, metal colorless. It does 150 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon's attacks deal 150 less damage, which is quite a lot of damage to reduce. Then we have Steel Slash, metal colorless. It does a blanket 200, and Master Blade 340 for 4 energies, and you have to discard 3 energy from this Pokemon, but you don't really mind discarding 3 energy when you're probably just one-shotting absolutely anything that's on the other side of you. So Zacian V-union is probably just going to fit in well in a Zacian deck, but I do think adding Bronzongs is a good idea to actually get the energy over onto Zacian V-union after you've set it up, of course. You could consider not running the Bronzongs and just always go for that Union Gain play when you finally do get Zacian V-union onto the board, but I put this idea together because I thought Bronzong sounds like a pretty good way to try it out. And I have the Galarian Mouth in there to allow us to discard cards, because we need to discard Zacian V-union pieces so that we can actually play it onto the board. I don't have Galarian Berserker in here because there's really no damage addition that I think... There's nothing that the additional damage will help. You know, Galarian Berserker buffs our damage by 20, but Zacian V does 230. What has 250 HP? Zamazenta has 130. Does the 20 ever matter? Zacian V-union does 340. Do we need to do 360? The answer is most of the time is going to be no. Yeah, so this is my quick draft for a Zacian deck with Zacian V-union in it. Also, keep in mind, these decks aren't really going to be a Zacian V-union deck. It's hard to build a deck around a card that you have to have all 4 copies of it in the deck, and then get them all to the discard pile, and then get them onto the board, and then get them set up. It's going to be quite difficult to actually build decks around these cards. They're more so going to be finishers or techs or circumstantial cards that you use when you can, kind of like the legend pieces were back in the Heart Gold, Soul Silver era of the game. Next, we'll look at a Greninja V-union deck, or like I said, a deck including Greninja V-union. So let's take a look at Greninja V-union here. Greninja V-union has 3 abilities and 4 attacks. That's a lot of stuff. It has the ability Ninja Body. Whenever your opponent plays an item card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. This is going to prevent Crushing Hammer, Tool Scrapper, couple important things. Crushing Hammer is very annoying, so it's nice to prevent that. The next ability is Antidote Jutsu. This Pokemon can't be poisoned. And then ability Probing. Once a turn, you can look at your opponent's hand. That's like kind of just a nice thing to be able to do. Like, oh, let's see what they can do next turn. Sometimes it's not going to matter at all. Sometimes it's going to drastically change what you're going to do. It has the Union Gain attack. Like I said, they'll all have that for a colorless energy, and then it attaches up to 2 water energy. So Zacian attaches Metal, Greninja Water, Mewtwo Psychic. Attach 2 water from discard to this Pokemon. It does have Aqua Edge, which for a water energy does 130. I think that's pretty relevant. We'll talk about that in a second. Whirlpool Shuriken, water colorless, does 100 to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And I think that's great. That's probably what we'll be wanting to try to use Greninja V-union for. And then Waterfall Bind, water colorless, 180. The defending Pokemon can't retreat next turn. So I think Aqua Edge seems pretty good, because if you get Greninja V-union onto the board and just attach to it, swing 130, and then next turn, attach and Melanie, and then get to use Whirlpool Shuriken to do 100 to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon, or even do attach Melanie, Aqua Edge for 130, and then next turn, like Boss, to bring up a different Pokemon to put the Pokemon you just damaged onto your opponent's bench. And then Whirlpool Shuriken 100 to everything, or even 130 to everything if you have Telescopic Sight on Greninja V-union. So yeah, it could be a little bit of an underwhelming card compared to Zacian and Mewtwo, though. So I've chosen to build it with Glaceon VMAX and Suicune and Cinccino as well. Cinccino can discard cards, and we want to discard our V-unions. Cinccino also discards the water energy to then use with Melanie and Raihan. The stadium choice of this deck is Dynatree Hill, since we are doing a little bit of damage spread between Glaceon VMAX's attack and also Greninja V-union, and buffing those with Telescopic Sight. I did want to have some sort of stadium here to bump Path to the Peak, and Dynatree Hill kind of makes sense. Other than that, though, I think everything's pretty self-explanatory for this list. Glaceon VMAX has Metal weakness, whereas Suicune V and Greninja V have Lightning weakness, so it's nice to have 2 different weaknesses, and being able to switch attackers based on the situation and the matchup. And I definitely wanted to play a heavy count of the acceleration supporters, so Melanie and Raihan. We're playing 4 Melanie, 1 Raihan, because Glaceon VMAX needs 3 energy to attack, and Greninja V-union also needs 3 energy to attack. So I did consider Frostlass for this deck, so you can like attach Melanie and Frostlass and energy on, but do with that information what you will. Maybe you can make it work. And then the last one we'll look at, of course, is going to be Mewtwo V-union. Now, I did want to make Mewtwo V-union work with Dragapult because of its Psy-Splosion attack, but I don't know if you could actually get energy onto Mewtwo in a Dragapult VMAX deck, or what you would use to get energy onto Mewtwo in a Dragapult VMAX deck, aside from Union Gain, of course. So we went with Shadow Rider. So Mewtwo V-union has 1 ability and 4 attacks. The ability prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon. I think that's supposed to say prevent all effects from your opponent's Pokemon's attacks done to this Pokemon. in which case it would prevent damage counters, energy discard, special conditions, things like that. We have Union Gain to attach to Psychic from discard, Super Recovery, which is actually a massive heal. It just recovers 200 from this Pokemon. It doesn't do any damage with this attack, but you heal 200 damage, which is pretty crazy. So maybe somebody could make like a deck where you just sit in the active and heal your Mewtwo V-union or something. Psyplosion attack is the most interesting one. Put 16 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. So if you like kind of hit two things pretty hard but didn't knock them out, you can then just clean them up with this Psyplosion attack, which is really awesome. Kind of like the Espeon Deoxys Tag Team's Cross Division GX for its full effect. And then for 4 energy, it does Final Psyburn for 300. So I do think Mewtwo V-union and Zacian have a little bit more of that that burst damage potential, since Mewtwo does 300 and Zacian does 340, whereas Greninja has the potential to just like kind of clear your opponent's whole bench of Pokemon if you can use Whirlpool Shuriken like twice. But here is the Mewtwo V-union deck that I have built, and I kind of just made a Shadow Rider Alchemy list, but tossed in Galarian Articuno V because it discards 2 cards to draw a card. So we want cards that allow us to discard these V-unions when they happen into our hand, and also try to draw a lot of cards like we're going to do with that the Cinccino engine in the Glaceon Suicune list, and then in the Zacian deck we're drawing cards with Intrepid Sword and discarding them with Galarian Meowth. Here we're trying to draw cards with Shadow Rider and discard cards with Galarian Articuno V. And so this is going to be one of those situations where if we can hit 2 things hard with Max Geist, then we can clean them up with Mewtwo, or maybe take a one-shot with Alchemy and then knock out some support Pokemon on the bench with a Mewtwo V-union. So these were my 3 early draft lists for V-union cards for the Mewtwo, Greninja, and Zacian. There is a Pikachu V-union coming out, I believe, alongside Celebrations, but that is not coming out today on September 24th with Mewtwo, Greninja, and Zacian. So hopefully Potown Store will have these codes in stock sometime on the day that you're watching this video, and you can head over there and get them. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about these 3 V-union. Are they going to be played at all, or are these going to be kind of not really pushed into competitive at all, and we're going to have to wait for better V-unions down the line? Were these just kind of the test subjects? Let me know what you think about it, but make sure you subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.